Welcome to episode 10 of the Mile 62 podcast. I'm your host, Richard Elkins, coming to you from Austin, Texas. We cover all things ultra running in the southern United States. Got an exciting episode today. Today is Thanksgiving, so this is my Thanksgiving special. I'd like to start off by wishing everyone a great Thanksgiving. Wish the best for you and your family. And hope you got a run in today. I didn't do a turkey trot today, but I did go out for a 10-kilometer bike and also hit a weightlifting session at home, and then joined family and friends for a big Thanksgiving dinner. What I'd like to talk about today, I've got a race recap, talk a little bit about my race schedule, and then I've got a lot of ultra running news, and so let's get started. Earlier this month, I did the Trivium 50K. It's kind of a tongue twister of a name. It's a road ultra that's been going on for many years in the hill country. It takes place in Marble Falls, Texas, which is about an hour from where I live. It's in the hill country, so it lives up to its name. It's a very hilly course, and previously it was called the Hill Country Marathon. So they added a 10K to it and offered a marathon and a 50K this year. I signed up for the 50K. There was about 30 runners in the 50K. The weather was pretty good. It was a little bit cold at the start. And equipment-wise, I went with a race belt and ended up wearing my my Ultra Olympus. I was a little bit torn whether or not to wear my Hoka road shoes or my Olympus, and I went with Olympus because I just want to keep getting more and more used to those shoes. After the race, I think I probably would have went with my Hokas because it was pretty much road the whole way. I was told beforehand that there would be some rock trails, but it was very little. It was almost all road. And got started around 7 a.m. There was about 30 runners, but there were 100 runners in the marathon, so it was there was quite a few of us at the start. Started dark, took off. A light came up pretty quick, so I didn't use a light. It's called the Trivium because it goes out. It takes off outside of Marble Falls a few miles and then makes a right. It's a 3-legged course, so it takes a right, goes out into a very rural area, through a lot of cattle raising areas, not many farms, but a lot of ranches, and you're constantly going up and down hills. Like I said before, this was previously called the Hill Country Marathon, and they regard it as the toughest marathon in Texas, and you know, in Texas there's quite a few marathons. Austin Marathon is very hilly as well. But they call this one the toughest one, and I think it lived up to its name. It was really all hills. There were a few runnable sections, but not much. I was pretty pleased with myself. I was able to, pretty decent pace the whole run. I did walk a little bit on some really steep hills, but I was able to keep going. I took a lot of gels with me, and I was using some goo blocks and also some gels from Hammer. I'm glad I did because this course didn't have many gels on the course. It's a Tejas Trails run, but mostly it's set up for like a marathon style. So they had some chips and some Gatorade and other things, but it was more set up for like a marathon course rather than an ultra. Got out the first leg. You turn around after about 10K. You come back into a kind of a midpoint. Then you take a middle leg out, and it goes way out. And it does hit some flat sections, but also very windy sections. So we were running into the wind for a while. It comes back, and then you take that first leg again. You go out another 10K, come around. Kind of nice because it's one of those courses where you're constantly seeing people coming at you. You can see where the leaders are, and makes it a little more, I guess, less boring, to put the best words on it. And then after you come back in on that leg, then you're headed right back into to where you started from. Going back into the finish, a few miles from the finish, there's just a horrendous hill. I want to say it's a quarter mile. It's very steep, and really got beat up. I was kind of questioning whether or not I was running an ultra too soon. I just finished the Javelina 100 2 weeks before. I felt fine during training. I didn't feel beat up, but I don't know. Just felt a little bit. I was able to keep going the whole 50K, but I felt a little weak here and there. Maybe it was too soon to run another ultra. But like I said before, I use the ultras. I do them for fun, and they're my training runs. I like to do a long training run every month, and if I'm not racing an ultra, I'm racing a shorter event. I like them because, with the aid stations, you don't have to do too much planning. And yeah, that's kind of the way I roll. Next up on the race schedule, I've got the Mosaic 50K. That's another Tejas Trail race. That's actually, previously they've only had marathon. It's a marathon trail, but last week they added the 50K, so I've signed up for that. That's exciting. I've never done that one before. It's on a real nice ranch, and it's literally 10 minutes from my house. I think it's probably the closest race I've ever had to where I live. So it's nice. I can just leave my house before the race and get out there. However, it is 5 10K loops. I usually prefer not to do a lot of loops. It really messes with your mind, halfway through the race, you're passing your car and you're like, well, do I really want to continue? But unfortunately, that's just the way things roll with a lot of trail races. They have to use loops because the ranches aren't that big. So that's in December. In January, I have the Bandera 100K. This will be my third time running Bandera. Pretty excited about that. This year it's sponsored by Hoka, so that should bring out a lot of good athletes too to chat with, and it also bring out a big group of mid and back of the pack runners, which I fall into. So it makes the course more exciting because you're always being able to chat with people throughout the whole race. Bandera, as you know, is 2 50K loops, and hopefully this year they can run it on the original Bandera course, which is in Bandera, Texas. Last year they ran it on Camp Eagle because a few days before the race, heavy rain basically washed out all the parking area, so the park rangers told them they had to move it, so it was moved out to Camp Eagle. However, if that happens again, I've got good experience at Camp Eagle. I've run Bandera out there, and I've also run J&J out there, 100K. So I think I know the course pretty well, probably as well as I know the original Bandera course. And then that's January. In February, I'm doing something new. I'm doing a 72-hour race. It's called Jackalope Jam. It's put on by Trail Racing Over Texas. I've never done a 24-hour mile loop course, but I decided to go for the gusto and sign up for the 72 hours. I think that's going to be very interesting. Basically, it's a 1 mile loop held out at the Habanero, the same ranch that puts on the Habanero 100, and they've got a 1 mile loop, and it starts Thursday at 9 and goes to Sunday at 9. So I'm going to take my tent out there, and I'm going to see what really see what I'm made of, run for a while, rest, run for a while, do some sleeping. But they usually have a turnout of 20 to 30 people in the 72-hour one. I want to see how I can do. So I seem to do much better on the really long stuff. But I think that'll be exciting. Also, I want to see how I can do in a multi-day event. I mean, I've gone 29 hours in a race, but how do I do in 2 or 3 days? I really don't know. I want to see that because I really got my eye on doing Moab 240. I wanted to do it this year, but I wasn't ready. I mean, realistically, I'm not in the shape to do it. And I did Javelina again. Moab 240 and Javelina 100 is in the same month, October. If I do pretty well in Jackalope Jam and my fitness is where continues to improve, I'm thinking seriously about signing up for a Moab 240 in October, and that'll be kind of my A race of the year. Well, I say that. I'll find out on December 9th, which is, I guess, about a week from now, whether or not I can get into Western States 100. Of course, that's very unlikely because this is my first ticket. And I know a lot of people wait 6, 7, 8 years to try to get into Western States, but who knows? I might get lucky. A lot of people have got into Western States on their first try. I should say a lot. Some people have. As you know, there's 6,000, 7,000 people trying to get into a race that only lets, I think it's 269 people in the race. Also today, Black Friday discounts. I signed up for Brazos Bend 100K. That's in April. So basically, I've got a race almost every 4 weeks through the spring, through April. Jackalope Jam is towards the end of February, and Brazos Bend is the beginning of April. So technically in March I don't have a race, but I'll probably do like a half marathon or something, maybe even 20K or something like that. 20K half marathon, or maybe a little bit longer sometime in March, and then really focus on Brazos Bend after that. One thing about Jackalope Jam is which is in February, I've been studying Bob Hearns. He's real famous for that walk-run strategy, and he does real well in the 24 and 48-hour races. He's pretty famous for that, and he's got a downtown art. So I've been listening to a lot of podcasts that Bob Hearns has been on. You know, he basically works out all his walk and run breaks, and basically many of the top runners have said that, you know, giving your nervous system a break from running, you know, even a half a mile can make a heck of a difference, and all the top runners say that. So I've been studying the strategy, and I'm really interested to see how I do in that February race. That's enough about race schedule. I'd like to talk a little bit about ultra news. All right. World Mountain Running Championships, which were in Villa La Agosta, Argentina. This is about a week or two ago. Jim Walmsley, like always, very strong performance in the long distance race, and got first place. I think there was an Italian right behind him for a few minutes, but it was real impressive that Jim went out there and won that race. Also in the shorter race, Grayston Murphy won that from the U.S., and Joe Gray. Everyone knows Joe Gray. Joe Gray is kind of a specialist up to the marathon on the trails. He just wins almost every race he jumps into, and so it was real good turnout for the Americans. One thing Jim did mention on social media, that no Western States next year, so that's going to be very interesting for his competitors, because if he shows up, he just wins. So guys like Jared Hazen, Matt Daniels, Patrick Reagan, this is all going to give them a shot for first place in Western States. Reason he's not running Western States is because he plans on doing Comrades 50-miler next year. Comrades, as we know in South Africa, is the biggest ultra in the world, and the whole country turns out for it. I mean, local TV station follows it for like 12 hours during the day. It's just something really incredible. It's kind of on my bucket list. I'd like to do that race someday. But I've heard interviews from people like Patrick Reagan that said that the top 100 people go out 4.5 minute mile on the first mile. It's amazing. But, you know, there's tens of thousands of people in that race, and it's really that kind of the top of the food chain in ultra running. It's a road ultra, but, you know, people say if you're really going to make your name in ultra running, you need to win Western States, you need to win UTMB, and you need to win Comrades. And there have been people that have done 2 of them, but never 3 of them. So let's see. And also, as we know, Jim qualified for Olympic trials in the spring, so he's focusing on that, and then he will go into Comrades after a few months after Olympic trials. So I think he's going to be focusing on speed work late this year and early next year. Another interesting thing is Xterra Championships were a week after the World Mountain Running Championships, and Grayson Murphy and Joe Gray went out there and got first place again. And also Sage Kennedy got second. But it's pretty amazing. They were in Argentina. Grayson and Joe were in Argentina a week before, which is really a lot of traveling. Went out to Hawaii and won again. So kudos to them. Also this month we had the North Face 50. We had Eo Wang, which is a Marin resident. She runs those trails all the time. Big name on like Sonoma and Sonoma 50 miler and North Face 50. She really went out and did really well, which I was happy for her because she didn't do so well in Western States, and she's been struggling in races of recent. A lot of the big names from the U.S. and the men's side didn't do too well, like Matt Daniels and Jared Hazen were out there. It turned out that Sebastian Sveller, I'm probably butchering his name, and Thibaut Gueriver, two Frenchmen, got first and third. So kudos to them. One interesting thing is, after UTMB in France, people are top runners are always saying, well, the travel and really makes a difference. But I think these two races this month prove that that's not the case. You need to be trained and ready for the race, and you can win it. Because we have Jim going out to Argentina, and getting first place, and then we have two Frenchmen coming to California and getting first and third. So I think that blaming it on the travel and the jet lag and all that doesn't hold water. I've been a critic before. I'm really disappointed that the U.S. men don't do very well in UTMB, with the exception of like Tim Tollefson and getting third and here. But I'm really hoping that this next year will be the year that someone from the U.S. gets first place on the men's side. Last year, this year, Courtney DeWalter got first place, and which was exciting. But really like to see the men do well this next year. Other news, Sam, my brother, the ultra trucker, we've interviewed him on a previous podcast. He met Irma Ibarra at the Habanero 100 in August. And actually, I met her at the same time. We were kind of running together at the same time. I shared about 10K with both of them. They hit it off very well. Sam was running the 50K and Irma was running the 100K. And I'm excited to mention that they just recently got married. So a little romance out at the Habanero 100. Who says that you can't meet your partner during ultra running? Well, my brother and Irma just proved that you can. So I'm excited for them. Some exciting news for me. I found out this month that next year I will be on the UltraAspire Immortal team, which means that I'm sponsored by them on their Immortal team with a lot of other ultra runners that share the same goals. I've been using UltraAspire waist light for probably a year and a half now. Very great light. I use other lights too, but it's been my go-to light. Usually I have a headlight and a waist light, and I use my waist light probably 80% of the time. The headlight's just for backup. This sponsorship will, get me equipment much cheaper, and also let me try out and be part of an R&D effort to improve the lights and hydration packs and be part of a team. So I'm real excited. It's my first sponsorship from in my ultra running endeavors. I just bought a new hydration pack. It just came in today, actually. Plan on testing that next week. I've never used their hydration packs, but I will be going forward. So I'm real excited about being part of the UltraAspire team. Some other personal news. I added to my gym. Bought a new Bosa ball, got a dumbbell and a kettlebell rack, and some medicine balls. Why did I do that? Well, I belong to a gym that's in my neighborhood. We got a real nice gym, but with my children, it's real hard to get away from home. I find that I can work out while they're reading books and spend more time with them if I got the weights here. And a big part of my training going forward, started this month, is do more weightlifting. did a little weightlifting in the past, but I'm doing it several times a week now. I really want to build up my core and arm strength, basically my whole body strength, and also thinking real seriously about the miles that I put in running and biking, trying to put more value into them, following Sage Canada's training plan. I did my first speed workout this week on the track. I haven't done one all year long, so went out and did mile repeats. I plan to just not run every day, put more value into my runs, think about them a little bit more, have more of a training plan. So I'm excited about that. I think it will add some value. Another thing I've been working on is my posture. I've got a book from Running Rewired. Highly recommend that book. It's by Jay Dekari, and if you don't want to buy the book, you can just listen to some of the podcasts that he's done. Hopefully, I can have him on my podcast in the future. But he's done a lot of podcasts, and he talks about running posture and how important it is. And I've been trying it out. I did a running gait analysis earlier this year, and Run Lab told me that I'm overstriding and that my cadence isn't high enough. I think it's like 160, should be 170 to 175. And I was really surprised that I was overstriding. I thought my steps were too short. And so when I heard about his recommendations for posture, basically leaning back so that you straighten your body when you run, when I first started doing it, it kind of felt weird. And then it really felt easy to run. And the logic behind it is when you're leaning over, when you run, you're causing your body, your muscles to open up your rib cage so you can breathe. So that's wasting energy. It's going to make you tired. And being an ultra runner, that's really important because, I'm out there 15, 20 hours and maybe 25 hours in a race. So I don't need to be wasting energy. So I've been practicing that. I've kind of, in my opinion, been leaning forward. And when I kind of straighten up, it kind of makes my steps a little more choppy. And I feel like I'm shortening my stride. My back has been a little bit sore the first couple of times I did it, but I'm really getting used to it, and I think it's making me a little bit faster and a little bit easier to run. So I'm excited about it. At least in my mind, that's what it's doing. So that's about me. Other things in running, we've heard the Mary Cain story. Nike Oregon project. This is road running. Nike Oregon project, there's a lot of discussion about it. Alberto Salazar got a few-year ban for, pushing the envelope on substances, not necessarily drugs, but, just different types of what they call doping to get an advantage. And then Mary Cain, which is a runner, female runner, came out and said that he was weight shaming her and basically ruined her career. She was the top, basically when she was 16 years old, she was the top female runner in high school. And she was approached by Alberto Salazar to run with the Nike Oregon project. And it was good timing for her, so she did. I personally think that, 16 years old is too young. She probably should have waited till she was 18. But listening to her story is really terrible. She was weight shamed and told that she needed to lose weight, and basically really jacked with her mentally. And she just wasn't performing for a couple years. And it wasn't until after Alberto Salazar got in trouble that she came forward with what's happening to her. And it turns out it's, probably happening to a lot of female athletes. And I'd like to add it's probably happening to a lot of male athletes too. The thing that troubles me about the story is that, Alberto Salazar, we all know that he did some bad things and he doesn't have any business being in coaching, but I think there's a lot of other coaches out there that are doing the same thing to athletes, and just because they're winning or have good success, that maybe people turn their heads the other way. And good example of that, Alberto Salazar is representing Nike. It's not a sports team. It's not Stanford. It's not a college team. It's not a professional team. So maybe that makes some difference. People can't really closely relate to it, so they just all jump on him. I think that they're rightfully jumping on him, but why not? Why not coaches like Bobby Knight or Jimmy Johnson? Um, you know, if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, who would you want to be your coach? Jason Garrett or Jimmy Johnson? Jason Garrett's been the coach for many years now, and we all know that he's very soft, and we're not happy at all. That's why they're not winning. Jimmy Johnson, when he was coach, they won 2 Super Bowls. Well, Jimmy Johnson is one of the biggest assholes in coaching. Everyone knows that he treats his players not so good. They knew that when he coached at Miami, and we knew that when he coached at Dallas Cowboys. I mean, in a press conference, he belittled his kicker because he had asthma. But if you ask anybody in Dallas, 99.9% of the people will tell you that they'd rather have Jimmy Johnson as a coach. What's the difference between Jimmy Johnson and Alberto Salazar? Not much. Bobby Knight used to throw chairs all the time. Who knows what he did in the locker room? But he won. He won a lot of games. People turn their head the other way. I'm also bothered by famous athletes like Shalane Flanagan. She recently retired, and she came out and said she was sorry. She knew something was going on, but didn't do anything. Well, why didn't you do something about it? You're the leader of the team, the best lady on the team. She needed your help. She was 16 years old. So I think sorry's not good enough. So I'm a little bent about how everyone is only targeting one person. If you want to improve the culture, target all these college coaches that operate the same as Alberto Salazar and some of these professional coaches. I'd like to see someone improve situation for athletes in the pro teams and in the college teams, male and female. Anyways, I think it's a good discussion to have, but if people think it's only happening at the Nike Oregon project, they're not following the news very closely. It's happening everywhere. So I'm glad that Mary Cain spoke out, but I really wish that more things would be done in other programs, not just the Nike Oregon project. And I really wish Nike would have some balls to come out and really clean up the project and not keep supporting Alberto Salazar. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. Been a lot of podcasts talking about it, but they don't talk about other coaches. They just want to body slam Alberto Salazar over and over. But I got news for you. He's not the only coach doing that. There's a lot of coaches doing that. I got on my desk, I got Jason Fitzgerald's book, Optimal Weight. It's called, Race Weight. There's a lot of books out there about race weight. Of course, every coach is telling people to be a certain weight and running. There's books out there about it. Jason Fitzgerald is a very famous running coach, and he's on a lot of podcasts too. So, I've heard on a lot of podcasts people coming out and say, don't worry about weight. Weight doesn't matter. And that's all nonsense. Every running coach out there says that weight matters. The problem is when people take it too far. Weight shaming is ridiculous. Can cause an eating disorder. We've all heard, Amelia Boone coming out talking about her eating disorder, and people have eating disorders, eating too little or too much. The problem is when things are done in extreme, which is what happened in the Alberto Salazar case. Anyways, I think everyone should, look at both sides of it, because it's happening in a lot of programs, not just in the Nike Oregon project. And hopefully Nike will clean house. They got a lot of money. They can easily bring in some new coaches and start from scratch the right way. Like Prefontaine. He was big for runners' rights, and I think Prefontaine would be rolling over in his grave now if he saw what has happening to Mary Cain and some of these other athletes. So hopefully Nike will clean up their program. But that's enough about that. I'd like to thank you for joining, listening to my podcast on this Thanksgiving. If you're listening to that a few days from now, so be it. But I'd like to wish you a happy Thanksgiving, and hope you can follow me on social media as well. I'm Runner RWE on Instagram. On Twitter, I'm at Runner RWE. And on Strava, I've got the Mile 62 running group. And I'm also on Strava as Richard, a Mile 62 group, or you can also search by my name, Richard Elkins. If you have any feedback or questions, I'd be happy to hear from you. Always like to hear from friends and fans of the podcast. And if you have any suggestions or questions, please send them to runnerrwe@gmail.com. And please give me a review, whether or not it's positive or negative, on iTunes. It helps me get traction and more people find out about my podcast. And if you would, please subscribe. That way the podcasts are automatically downloaded to your phone when they come out. I really appreciate it. Enjoy your run. Take care.